Right, welcome back to another episode of the Thrive Method podcast. And I'm very pleased to be here with Steve Woods, hypnotist, mental mastery for golfers and high performers, supporting confidence, focus, and very importantly, results for people. So I know, Steve, we've kind of like known each other for some years now, through networking events and things like that. But no, it's great to have you on the podcast and have a proper good conversation again. So yeah, welcome. And before we get into it, what I would love you to do is just go into and give the listeners a little bit more background on who you are, what you do, and yeah, how you help people.
John, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. We did meet quite some time ago now, I think it was originally. But yeah, thank you very much for having me along. It's a pleasure to be here. So I am Steve Woods. I am a hypnotist. I've been helping people with hypnosis now for 21 years. Since I got some proper qualifications, I learned from books before then and did play around with it a little bit before then. But yeah, proper qualifications 21 years ago. And keep full time now 9 years ago today, actually. Yeah, as we're recording this. So 9 years
Okay,
ago today, I
right,
need to do a social media post about that. I'd forgotten all about
absolutely.
that. So yeah, that's what took it full time. I I still work therapeutically, but I've moved a little way from that now in that I work a lot with performance, as you mentioned at the beginning, golf in particular. So I work a lot with golfers. In the last couple of months, though, it's been a lot of other sports coming along and business performance as well. So all the time, there's been a business performance element in the background. But then, like I say, there is still that therapeutic side. And really, even helping somebody get better sleep or removing anxiety, reducing anxiety, taking control of things, it's going to help them perform better as well. So really, everything is to do with helping people perform better. I think it means I
Mm,
can focus on that future pacing rather than it be necessarily it is therapeutic, but therapeutic often implies sort of going looking for blocks and things like that. And I tend to be more, as I say, future
mm.
paced.
Oh, okay. That's great to know. And if anyone's coming to start working with you, Steve, what are the kind of, am I saying silly, but what are the kind of signs, signals that they've started to realize they're going, hold on, I need to do something about this. This isn't working for me. What kind of what did they
Hmm.
start presenting for to take that action to reach out to you?
I generally say when somebody says, what is hypnosis? I generally say to people, it's helping people achieve the shoulds or to stop
Mm,
doing the shouldn'ts as well. But it's the shoulds and shouldn'ts. We all have those things that we get to the end of a day, maybe, and we go, oh, should have done my phone calls, I should have done my prospecting, or I should be able to stand at the golf tee and not feel nervous because I've teed off
mm,
hundreds, if not thousands of times before, or I should be able to get to sleep because sleep is natural and it's easy. It's those sorts of things that are really where people come to me. But it's not always about fixing something as well. It could be they just want to do better. They want to be better at doing something. So it can, that side of it as well. But
mm,
generally as a hypnotist, hypnotherapist, you're generally dealing with things that are holding people back. People feeling stuck. There's so many different ways to look at it, but I think to simplify it as much as possible, it's knowing that you should be doing something or some things and you're not doing those things. And then it's about creating those habits and automating those habits so you actually do those things.
mm. Yeah, and it very linked into, how I help people and what I do with my clients. And do you feel that like this is something that is starting to increase? Like there's more people that are feeling like they have these shoulds and they have these blocks and feeling like they're feeling stuck. Because I know for me, one of my big things with working with people because they're high performers. They like to get stuff done, but for whatever reason, they're finding these blocks and things. Do you think it's something that is over the last decade or so, I suppose, is getting worse?
Yeah, I think it probably is. I think
Mm,
because there's so many demands on us now, it's very difficult to switch off. So you're making time to do those shoulds and those things you should be doing, or giving up those things. And sometimes it might be the shutting down of social media might be the thing you should be
mm,
doing or shouldn't be doing on social media as well. But yeah, I think
mm,
yeah, we can't. So I think even things down like anxiety and things, and particularly in children and things now, they don't. There's no break from life. You know, when I
Mm,
was younger, you finished school, you went home, you might watch a bit of telly or something, or somewhere you might go fishing and things, and you weren't bombarded by things. You were able to switch off from school and switch off from the bullies and switch off even from your mates
mm,
if need be. And then the next
yeah,
day was fresh and it was exciting and you felt clear-headed again. Whereas now, even for the youngsters, but for all of us, it's just almost non-stop. If you didn't need to sleep, you'd just keep going. You'd just be on your phone and you'd be on
yeah.
social media. So yeah, I think it's the way life is, it's definitely getting worse. I think it's something you can make positive use of as well, that connected life. There are ways to do it, but it's
Mm,
you've got to get those boundaries in place.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. And again, it really resonates with a lot of conversations I have with clients. It's like, are you really that surprised that you are just so mentally fatigued that you're making poorer decisions when it comes to your own health and well-being? I had a conversation
Mm.
recently with a client who's just like, why am I doing these things? You know, and she highlighted like overeating or just eating poor quality foods, chocolate comes in,
Yeah.
alcohol. And we kind of like, if we really scale it back and actually look at when these things are happening, there was definite certain feelings and emotions and beliefs that attached themselves to those habits and
Mm.
outcomes. And it was highly stress, anxiety, you know, and they've almost formed a way for her to cope with those symptoms. I suppose
Yeah.
you'd call them, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like a lot of the time it's like, are you surprised, with if you think about
Mm.
what you've gone through your week to get you to the weekend, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so and we're just not designed for that, are we? To be completely just consuming and just receiving
No.
information all the time.
No, absolutely. Before electricity and fire and all those things, we'd have to go to sleep when it got dark, and
Mm,
we'd wake up when it got light, and that would be it. We'd shut down and we wouldn't do anything else. And yeah, we don't have that now. As I say, we could keep going 24/7. One of the things that comes up quite a lot when I'm working with people is about being kind to yourself as well, because I don't
mm,
think it's something we're particularly good at. We're not, gratitude comes into it a lot as well. So it's those sort of techniques can make a massive difference to life. And it's things, even outside of hypnosis, it's things that people can practice and habits that people can learn. Yes, hypnosis, I'm a hypnotist, is what I talk about. But getting to the subconscious, we can embed those habits really quickly.
mhm,
But actually, manually, you can also embed those things of just going, it's okay to feel that way, or it's okay to be mad with yourself or upset with yourself because of the way you've done something or not done something. Because
mm.
by acknowledging it, at least then you're recognizing it and going, so tomorrow, actually, I can start to think about doing things differently. So yeah, being kind to yourself, I think, comes into a lot of what I'm doing, and a part of an important coping mechanism in today's life.
Yeah. I think that's really true. I think like one of the big things for me, it's like getting people to not dig themselves into more of a hole. So when they do something that isn't aligned to their own aspirations and what they want to achieve, is like they'll beat themselves up and they'll just dig
Yeah,
deeper and dig deeper and dig deeper. And it's
yeah,
almost trying to flip that to kind of like be, can we just not, can we just witness it? Can we see it and just go, oh,
mm,
that's interesting.
yeah,
I
yeah,
wonder why that's happened. Because from that point of view, you're in a powerful place, aren't you? To then go,
yeah,
right, okay, well, that happened because of this, and this is how I found myself in this situation. So moving forwards, how would I like to perform and
yeah.
act in those situations? You know.
Yeah, I mean the difficulty is the protection part of the mind, the subconscious part of the mind is always looking for those negatives. So it will
Mm,
dwell on those things when they go wrong because what it's actually trying to do is to not let it happen again. And it
mm,
wants you to run away from those situations where that thing maybe has happened. So of course now it's replaying it all the time. It's
yeah.
replaying that scenario, that run-in with somebody, or that thing you forgot to do, or upsetting your boss, or some comment that somebody made. I remember working with a golfer. I'm not a big fan, I think we said, of going back to the initial sensitizing event in something. I think it can be important sometimes to know
Mm,
it. But I was working with a golfer and he'd got a particular block. And in hypnosis, he went back probably about 10 years to a comment that his neighbor back then had made over the garden fence about what he thought
mm,
about golfers. And it was in
Mhm.
there and it was embedded in there. He didn't think about it every day, but his subconscious was thinking about it. Every time he went to the golf course, his subconscious is going, yeah, remember what he thought about golfers. Remember
Yeah.
what you should run away from this. You shouldn't be here in this situation. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
He treats it as if there's something going to eat us, treats it as if there's a saber-toothed tiger still sitting outside the cave door, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, it's but being able to, you almost see a light bulb go off when I say that to people. When we're about to work, I talk about how the subconscious works, and they'll say, this is happening, this happening. And I say, that's okay, that's normal. And they go, what? And you start to talk
Mm.
about the protection part of the mind, and they go, oh yeah, okay, oh that makes sense now. And
Mm.
even that on its own, and hopefully people who are listening will be able to go, oh, actually, yeah, I can. Oh, yeah, there is that thing. Or, sometimes you
Yeah.
don't know consciously. Sometimes you can't do it consciously because it's embedded deeply, like the golfer. He didn't know. He didn't
Yeah.
remember it at all until
Yeah.
he went back and looked for it. But sometimes we are also aware of, what somebody said or what we even thought about ourselves. And if you look at
Yeah.
the news, the news is all negative.
Mm.
There's lots of positives go off in the world, but we don't want to consume that because our mind is wanting to protect us from it. So it needs to learn about it. It wants to understand it and replay it again. And this is happening in the world and that's happening in
Yeah.
the world. Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing. The mind keeps me in
Mm.
business, of course. We just go to
Yeah.
keeps us
Yeah.
both in business. But yeah,
Yeah.
but it's terribly destructive most of the time.
Yeah. And I think it's incredibly empowering when people realize that they're not alone, because when they
Mm.
start talking to someone like yourself or me, they'll go, "Oh, all right, so it's not just me. Like this is
Yeah,
human. This
yeah.
happens,
Yeah,
you
you're
know."
right. We do think that. We do think when there's only us that's got that thing wrong with us, or there's only us
Mm.
that's thinking that way. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, you're
Mm.
right there.
I had a client not long ago, actually, big issue around social events and like drinking, which I'm sure many
Mm.
people can relate to. Like when in social events, like particularly in this country, um, there's a drinking aspect to it, and we
Yeah.
broke it down back to like almost her college days, and she never felt a part of the group. So when they were in a social event, she realized or subconsciously realized, if I have a drink, I'm funny, I connect
Mm.
with everybody. So
Yeah.
then straight away the brain has gone, oh, okay, so if I drink, I present myself in this way and then I'm accepted. So for decades, she
Mm.
has this connection of, well, when I go to the pub, I'll drink, and I'll drink quite
Yeah.
excessively, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Again, my feeling around that is that we need to be, you're right, we need to be accepted. We we often don't want to be a leader. And again, I think this comes back to sort of living in tribes and packs and things.
mm,
Again, going back to sort of caveman, cavewoman days, where you're being a leader was quite dangerous because you were the first one sort of round the corner. You were the one that
yeah.
could get pounced on by a saber-toothed tiger or something else
Mhm.
or an enemy tribe. But also not being accepted meant that you were now cast out and you were on your own. But being in the middle of that crowd was safe
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
following along with everybody else was a safe option. I think that's still been built into us. So yeah, people who become leaders are quite sort of exceptional. They've got to, and that's why we get a lot of imposter syndrome. And I've had people contact me who I could never imagine had got imposter syndrome.
Mm.
I was at a big event and one of the speakers who stood at the back talking, and he was an author and TEDx and done all these things, and he sort of went, "Yeah, can you do anything when my imposter syndrome?" And I said, "Really?" He said, "Oh yeah, yeah."
Mm.
Because we don't want to be, again, from a survival point of view, we don't want to be that person who's going to stick their head above the parapet
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. So with that being said, Steve, if someone wants to come and start working with you and start to get into hypnosis and that process, should I say, what does that kind of look like? So because for me, and I don't know if other people feel this way, like my understanding of hypnosis or experience with hypnosis is very, very limited. I haven't been hypnotized myself, okay. Um, but I grew up in the 80s and I remember going on holiday with the parents. I'm sure you're going to hate this story. I'm sure you've heard it many times before, but growing up in this country in the 80s, going to see the evening entertainment, and there was a hypnotist on, and then all of a sudden you've got people on stage clucking like chickens and doing what
Mm.
all sorts of stuff. So I think it's great if we could just break down, we spoke a little bit why and what you do and how it can help people, but what does that actually look like?
Okay. Well, let's just touch on the stage hypnosis thing because there are a lot of people in my world, in hypnotherapy world, hypnosis world, who I've heard people say that stage hypnosis isn't real, it's fake, and all these things, which is absolutely not true. I've got some great friends who are stage hypnotists, and to me, stage hypnosis is a really good demonstration of the power of the mind when it's done right. And the problem is
Mm,
there's parts of the world where there's no regulation. In the UK, it's actually quite hard now to get insurance and to do a stage show. But a really good stage show will be, it will show the power of mind. Getting two people who've never met before in hypnosis and say, right, on the count of three, you'll have been married 10 years and you're going to have a domestic dispute about something. And you stop at that point and one, two, three, open your eyes. First couple of sentences will be disjointed, who's done what, who's left the toilet seat up, who's mother-in-law or something. But really, really quickly, almost instantly, this flow starts and this domestic starts. Now, consciously, if somebody came to you and me and said, right, you've got to do this thing, we'd be like, well, who's done what? What are we going to argue about? And we'd need a
mm,
plan, we'd need a script. So to be able to do that in the subconscious, to me, shows the power of what you can do. And people are doing
mm,
some amazing stuff with the subconscious mind. But anyway, back to what it looks like to work with me. So it's very unique. It's not a scripted process for a start. So initially, we've got to have a conversation. So when somebody contacts me themselves, and I say that because I do get people, quite a few people contact me and go, can you make my husband stop smoking? Can you make my son or daughter be better at football or be more confident? And okay, I get it with children. If hypnosis is sort of age 10, 11 upwards, you can work younger as well, but in the same way as an adult, it's 10, 11 upwards. So yeah, they're not going to pick up the phone to me. I get that. But when it's their 22-year-old son that's or 22-year-old daughter, well, actually, they need to contact me first. So
mm,
the initial conversation has to be a two-way thing because they're not going to they don't have to believe in hypnosis. I think it's really important. Some of my best clients have been really skeptical of
mm,
hypnosis and what it may or may not be, but they've really wanted the change and they've been really willing to follow the instructions. And that's the
mm.
important bit to me, that desire for the change. And that's why somebody ringing on behalf of somebody else, we're already on the back foot because,
Yeah.
well, what do they say? Oh, they shrug their shoulders and they're not that bothered about the thing. Okay, I can't help them then. So we have to have a
Mm,
conversation. We have to, and sometimes I do send people away and go, actually, this isn't the right thing for you for whatever. I try and
mm,
help them as much as I can, try and give them some conscious advice, maybe some things to think about, to then come back in a few weeks' time and have another conversation. But two-way conversation, set some goals. I like measurables as much as possible. What can we
yeah.
put in place if we work together? What can we put in place so you know that it's working? Even to the point of, and I do this every session anyway, what would you change in the next 2 weeks? If you could change just one thing about that thing we're talking about, what would it look like? And just getting them to really think about it and go, well, actually, yeah, I want to be able to pick up the phone. I want to make my 10 prospect calls a week that I'm not doing at the moment. I'm procrastinating about. Great. What does that look like? What does that look like then in a year's time? Is that, are you
Mm,
going to close one of those? Is your average closing rate one person out of 10? Great. How much money is that in a year? So I want to get them and start to get them excited about it. So that actually
yeah.
now they're going, oh that I could see that. So if I do that, this is going to happen. So we have quite a detailed conversation around that, a strategy session. It's a chat really,
Mm,
but no
okay.
obligation to do any work at that stage. Like I say, sometimes we don't, sometimes we do. Put together a plan, and then we go into the sessions. All the sessions are pretty much online, although I've literally, before we started, worked with somebody in person, but most of my sessions are online.
Mm,
Hypnosis over Zoom or Teams is just as effective as in person. Slightly different and only slightly different. I like hypnotic phenomena, so I want people to know that something's happening. And if you're
mm,
in the same room, that could be an arm levitation or it can be being
mm,
something physical that maybe you can't do over Zoom because you can only see from the neck upwards. So it
yeah.
can just be a conversation. On the count of three, open your eyes, stay relaxed, stay hypnotized. How do I feel? Oh, I feel really heavy. Brilliant. A little bit of phenomena. Something's happening
Mm,
because
mm,
that gets us the results even quicker as well. So my
mm,
actual sessions are quite interactive. They take some of the things from stage. A stage hypnotist will when they're getting, you don't generally see it on certainly on TV and things because they can't show the inductions, but they'll get somebody to open their eyes, close their eyes, open their eyes, close their eyes, and they're fractionating, they call it, where they're getting them to get deeper in. Every time you close your eyes, you'll get deeper into the process.
Right.
And I incorporate a similar thing in here, but it's also the feedback. So how
Mm.
do you feel? If we've just introduced a trigger to get somebody in the zone in that flow state, because again,
Mm.
I'm big on, okay, let's create anchors and triggers. What does it feel like when you're practicing it? So lots of measuring going on, even in the session, lots of calibrating going on in the session as
Right.
well. But like I say, driven absolutely uniquely, even if it's 10 golfers in a row, they'll all have different things they want to do slightly. Some will be very similar, but they'll all be
Mm.
different types of people. So
Mm.
the if you listen to each of the sessions, they'd all be different in some way. Because I think
Mm.
your scripts have a place in my world in hypnosis when you're learning, and I'll sometimes download someone's script if somebody comes. I've got somebody at the moment talking about something that I'd never had any experience of. So I'll go away and research it, what have other people done, and I won't sit and read a script, but I'll pick out, I think, okay, yeah, that's useful. Let's pick out some bullet points. So I think, yeah, there is a place for learning with those, but generally it's unique to that person.
Yeah.
What else can I tell you? Number of sessions, therapeutically, generally 3 sessions. Sports, performance stuff, usually 5 sessions.
Right.
Sometimes people come back and do some more. There's value in going, okay, got a big project coming up or a big presentation coming up. Let's do something around that. So I do have
Mm.
people who do regular and semi-regular sessions as well.
Okay. And is it a case of what you're doing once they are in those sessions, they're in that state? Are you rewriting those stories, those situations in their mind, so they're gaining a new perspective, a new outcome from that
Yeah.
already written like program that they're almost running in their mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So if
Yeah.
you go back to the protection part of the mind, it's running these scenarios. What happened last time I was here? What happened last time I did these? Again, coming back to picking up the phone, I had somebody horrible to me on the phone. They were really nasty. I was making my prospect call. Now my mind's going, don't do that again. That's
Mm.
dangerous. So what we've got to do in hypnosis is go, actually, let's isolate that down to one call at a time for a start, because people are going to be nasty to you. We all love a cold caller, don't we? So it
Yeah.
might be nasty to you, but you can isolate that on its own. You can get that feeling of one call at a time. So when you finish the call and you press end, that's gone, as if it's never happened in
Mm.
your mind. Obviously, if it's gone positive and you've got some work to do from it, you don't forget that. You do what you need to do from it, but then you reset from it and you pick up the phone and start again. So we're writing new memories. There's been measurements made of people's brain activity when they're in hypnosis and meditation and things as well, similar things, NLP as well. When they're visualizing and practicing something, they're creating memories. They're actually writing to those
Mm.
memory centers. And those are some of the things it's how we feel. If I'm
Yeah.
due to come on here and have a chat with you, the way I feel about doing it, whether I'm nervous before or those sorts of things, are all based on previous experiences. And if I haven't got a previous experience, it might be based on what's happened to somebody else. Somebody else might have told me something, that's made me think, oh God, I don't want to do that. I'm going to be nervous and I'm going to
Mm.
feel that way. And they're going to be able to hear me and comment. People are going to comment on it. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So you potentially build up this image as well, even though you've not experienced it. It could be a golfer that's watched a YouTube video of something happening to somebody else, and it could be years later they find themselves in that situation, and the subconscious will go, "Hang on a minute, remember that video? Remember what happened to that
Yeah.
person?" And then
Yeah.
suddenly create that anxiety. So yeah, it's about creating new memories. So someone I was listening to a podcast from another hypnotist, and they were talking. They described it, and I thought it was quite a good analogy. Nowadays, with music, with sound, we'll have a sound recording from this. You can cut something out and just join it back together.
Mm.
The mind, though, is a bit like an old cassette or even an old reel-to-reel tape, where we could do that, but you've got to do surgery to do that. You've got to get the tape out and splice it and all these things.
Yeah.
Something I was rubbish at when I was younger. I never got it right, but so the best way if you want to change something is to record over it. And
Mm.
even if it's silence, even if you just want to get rid of that old thing that's on there and just clear it, you've still got to record silence. You've got to actually leave it in a
Yeah.
quiet room and let it record for 90 minutes. I'm going back
Yeah.
to going back to my childhood memory now. But that's the way the mind is. I thought it was a really good way of thinking about it. We need to put some new stuff in there, some new tracks to play,
Yeah.
some updated music. Some people like to think of it as like a firmware upgrade on your phone. That can be a bit scary for people to
Yeah.
go, oh, we're going
Yeah.
to upgrade your mind, we're going to upgrade your brain. Whereas actually,
Mm.
let's change the memories is much softer approach to it.
Yeah.
Same end result, but much softer approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember going back to an interview. I don't know if it was an interview with Roy Keane or one of the Man United players, and he was speaking about Wayne Rooney and the preparation that he would go through for up and coming games, where he would want sounds and noises of the particular ground that they were playing at,
Mm.
so he could get used to the noise, and then also he'd want to know what kit that the opposing team were playing in,
Yeah,
and so he could familiarize himself. So once he got into that moment, almost he'd already ran the story of the game in his head already. So when he got to that
yeah.
moment, there was nothing unfamiliar almost, you know.
Yeah, rehearsal is a mental rehearsal, and so many people
Mm,
do it. You know, athletes will do it, runners will do it. They'll run the race in their mind, in a positive way. And the only time I've ever heard anything bad about that was it was a channel swimmer. It was a program I was listening to on the radio, I think, but they were talking about this that they'd always visualized being successful and but they for quite a long time they didn't make it and they took a long time to recover from that, so they had to
mm,
change their way of thinking about it, that actually they were just going to do their best, so they couldn't
mm,
rehearse it
mm,
as a completed thing. But for most people, yeah, it's rehearsing it as a
mm.
complete thing. There's a brilliant video, I don't know if it's on YouTube or somewhere, of the American Blue Angels display team, display pilots, and they literally sit around a table and their leader talks them through, and they're sat there, sat at the table, you're holding the controls, they've got one hand on the throttle and one hand on the stick, and they're leaning over and they're switching the smoke on, and they're doing as if it's on the radio. So they have that certain, they don't just go, oh, switch your smoke on. They've got, it's a bit like the red arrows you sometimes hear on the TV where they'll play the radio transmissions, and they run through that, and they're leaning, they're doing everything, they're doing the
Right.
breathing as if they're in the G seats, and it's an absolute rehearsal of what they're going to do. They've got their eyes closed, so they're picturing it, they're picturing the other planes next to them. Yeah, really clear rehearsal because
Yeah.
they're creating those memories, so it becomes automatic.
Awesome.
People talk about muscle memory, and it's exactly that. They're creating a muscle memory because the brain is a muscle that
Mm,
they don't even need to think about it unless there's an emergency while they're doing all that. Something happens unexpected, and then they've got full capacity to deal with that because they're not
mm,
overloaded with the normal day-to-day display flying. So yeah, it's
mm.
very, very powerful. And if you can create emotion around it, you get to the subconscious. You can make
Yeah.
changes again, similar. You know, what I'm doing, getting to the subconscious, is a process of getting access past the conscious mind. But actually, if you create a really good emotion, if you get excited about an end result, you're also getting to the subconscious, and so you're also
Yeah.
rewriting memories. So you can create habits quickly. You're not going to somebody said to me, I mean, it was always 28 days. 28 days of repeating a habit was what you had to
Mm,
do. And somebody said to me, now they're talking about 10,000 hours of doing something. I was like, that's a crazy amount of time for it to become a habit,
yeah.
or 40 days of. Well, if you can create a great emotion, you can do it much quicker. And if you can get into hypnosis, you can do it, you can embed habits in an hour. You start to get those
Mm.
habits happening really quickly. So, and
Right.
NLP sort of sits in that short scale as well of doing those things.
Yeah. So it can be quite a quick turnaround for a lot of people
Mm.
then, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So results from first session onwards is
Mm,
what I'm always looking for. That
yeah.
level of results can be varied. You know, some people it's dramatic. I've had golfers where they've said, "Oh no, I don't play competitions. I don't do competitions." And then 2 days later, after the first session, they've gone, "Oh, I entered my first competition yesterday and I
Wow.
won," because they just were able to go in that flow state.
Yeah.
That's quite rare, but very dramatic. For most
Yeah.
people, it's incremental changes, but it's not, you've not got to wait till the end of session 3 or session 5 and suddenly ping, there's a light bulb moment and everything changes.
Mm,
It changes each week, it changes each session, because we want to be able to, there will be things that don't change. There'll be things where I've
mm,
maybe used the wrong language or I've not got them to visualize it quite as well as they could have done, because it's all about me learning how they think and how they talk about themselves as well. So you might come back to session 2 or 3 and go, well, this has changed and this has changed, but this hasn't. Okay, look, we need to go after that then specifically. So it becomes
Mm,
that journey, and it's quite exciting because you're picking off little bits each time to end up at the end of all the sessions with everything in place, and then
mm.
continuing to get better as well, even after that last session.
Yeah, amazing. And when outside of those sessions as well, are you getting them to do anything as well, like on their own? So I would have thought like if a breakthrough occurs, it's very important for that individual to celebrate that in some way and to witness it, because I suppose if you don't, and I don't know if that's kind of like you reaffirming that, oh wow,
Mm.
oh look, yes, oh there it is, there's progress. I think, is there anything that is important that they do outside of the session as well?
Yeah, I think there's two sides. Sometimes they'll be listening to recordings or doing some self-hypnosis, depending on what we're working on. And self-hypnosis is just that ability to go back into that nice feeling, that nice place, to get that clarity back, to feel as though you're in a nice place for hours, even though you're only there for a few minutes, those sorts of thoughts and feelings. Excuse me. So it might be some homework in that area. Might be I make somebody a specific recording, particularly if they're struggling with something. Might be, okay, you need to listen to this every couple of days for the next 2 weeks. Generally, I work 2 weeks apart with clients for most things, but not everything. Session 2 onwards, we start to do gratitude. So coming into session 2 is okay. What's happened, what's changed, and it might only be little bits, and that's fine.
Mm,
But let's be grateful for those. So then that becomes starts to become quite normal then, and I start to talk about being grateful, coming off the golf course or getting to the end of the day and going, I haven't had that meltdown today, or I've done my calls, or oh yeah. The only thing with hypnosis is, and again, this is not my saying, it came from somebody else, and I can't remember who, but it's described, I've got to get this right way around. It's the most underwhelming therapy, but with overwhelming results
mm,
because it actually feels really normal to just be different. And that's where
mm,
sometimes the gratitude thing can be quite difficult because I feel like this is how I should feel, which
mm.
is perfect. It's exactly what you want. And even getting to the end of the session, they can't remember how they were before. It's
Yeah,
quite interesting. I
that's
had one lady come to me quite some time ago now with a fear of dogs and cats, real bad fear of dogs and cats. She would run away from them.
mm,
She worked in healthcare, so people would come in sometimes with a guide dog and things like that, and she couldn't
mm,
be in the room. It was a really bad one. She was about to get married. Honeymoon was to a country where lots of dogs and cats are roaming around, so she was really quite worried about it. We did the first session. Uh, Came to do the second session back when I had an office where people would come to me. She came in for the second session. Okay, so what's been happening? Oh, the weather's been rubbish. I've not really had a chance to go to the park or anything. Nobody's been in with a guide dog. Okay, so nothing happened at all. And she went, oh, actually, I did. I walked past somebody with a dog the other day in the subway on my
mm,
way to work. I was okay. So would you done that before? And she said, no, no. No, I'd have turned around. If I'd have seen them coming towards me, I'd have turned around, run back out, hidden in a shop, waited
mm.
for them to come out and then gone again. And that could have happened 2 or 3 times. Okay. Anything else? And she went, oh, yeah, I stroked a cat the other day. I was like, wait a minute, you did what? You stroked a cat? She said, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, well, how did that happen? She said, well, I went to my friend's house and I was telling them about the hypnosis. And she said, and the kids just put the cat on my knee. They just picked it up and put the cat on my knee. And I sat there and stroked it. And I said, well, would you have done that before? And she said, no, I'd never been to their house before because they've got a cat. But the
Mm,
initial was that initial response was nothing's changed. Again,
mm. Yeah.
underwhelming. It just felt normal.
Normal.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite interesting when you get to doing the gratitude and those things. But yeah, I'm always a big fan of it because you're right. It's that reassurance then as well. It's been able to go, wow, look what I've done just in the last 2 weeks, or look
Yeah.
what I've done since that last session. And I always say to them, I don't know why they always laugh. I always say, you're not being grateful to me, you're being grateful to yourself because your
Mm,
mind's the thing that's made the change. I've got you in that nice place and I've got you in that mindset and I'm guiding you with your own words and things, but
mm.
you're doing the work. So yeah,
Yeah.
really about getting them to appreciate themselves because then it gets better as well.
Yeah. No,
Again,
it's
something we
really,
can
really,
do day to day that we
yeah.
don't always do. Nobody teaches us, do they, at school? They don't teach gratitude at school. Maybe
Yeah.
they will do in the future, but I still don't think they do yet. But yeah, again, even without hypnosis, being grateful and showing gratitude, just being able to reflect on the day of what you've achieved and what you've done, what maybe other people have done for you as well, or what you've done for other
Mm,
people, anything like that. I'm not a big fan of. oh, you must find 10 things to be grateful for. I know some practices go, you have your gratitude journal and you've got to find 10 things. That can become a bit stressful and a bit, you become
Mm,
anxious when it gets towards 8 o'clock at night. And I've got to do my gratitude journal. So for me, it's more about ideally doing it as it happens, but you don't always have a chance to do that. And then just a bit of reflection at the end of the day.
mm. Yeah. No, I mean, I love gratitude. I think, and I think you're absolutely right. I think if you can get it into schools, it'd be huge.
Yeah.
Because I think, for a lot of us now, we're always looking for that next thing. What we're coming from things from a point of need. We need this, we need
Yeah.
that, we need to do this, and not really witnessing what
Mm.
we currently have. Which is
Yeah.
huge, which is a lot more than what our ancestors and previous, family members would have had. It's
Yeah.
worlds, it's worlds apart, isn't it?
Yeah, massively.
Um,
It's the instant world, isn't it? Like we said, it's a constantly
yeah,
switched on world again.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's really, really interesting, really interesting. I think what's really powerful for me when I'm having these conversations is giving people some kind of actionable steps. Obviously,
Mm.
I want people to come and see and work with you, Steve. But if people can take anything away from this conversation, who may be new and coming across and thinking, oh, then this kind of resonates with me. Hypnosis might be something for me. But what are some daily shifts that people can just start to be aware of and make on a day-to-day basis that can really help them to possibly lower some stress or some blocks within their life to perform better, whether that is in sport or golf business? Is there any kind
Mm.
of things that you would suggest people that can go and just take some action?
It does vary from person to person because
Mm,
we're up against that belief structure. If I said
mm,
to somebody, oh, just spend some time closing your eyes and imagine those things going really well, whatever they are. For some people, that would start to work, and that's great. So that's sort of belief type of thing. But then for some, their mind, quite understandably, the conscious mind would go, what a load of rubbish, and it would never
mm,
let it get past to the subconscious. But it is about believing in yourself. It is about being kind to yourself. It is about gratitude because you'll start to find good in there that you're already doing that you didn't really think about because it was just normal.
mm,
That you can then use that as a motivator to start to make changes. And if you are looking at things like hypnosis or NLP or any of those things, you find somebody that's got some free stuff to give you, first of all, because it's so unknown. My mission from day one back 21 years ago, hypnosis, hypnotherapy was very woo woo. It still is for a lot of people, but a lot less than it
mm,
was. So it was always my mission to get as many people to do hypnosis as possible. Whether they work with me or not after, it doesn't matter. It's if they've experienced it, and even if it's years down the line, they can go, "Oh yeah, I did that thing. I did that. Yeah, we did that free session or that group session,
mm,
whatever." So finding people who are able to do that for you, because it doesn't have to be me, that you resonate with, that feels right to chat with, got rapport with them as well, because you should always be able to experience it, and people should always be
mm,
willing to let you experience it as well, rather than it be, well, you're gonna have to cross my palm with silver, and
mm.
then you can have some hypnosis.
Yeah.
Actually, no, let's just sit down and do something, and then that's part of the strategy session. Or a lot of people don't take it up because we're booking in by them, but if somebody's still a bit undecided, okay, let's just do 10 minutes. Just try a
Mm,
little bit. It's not going to
yeah.
cost you anything apart from a little bit of time, or download a recording. So yeah, I think there's loads of resources out there. And just be a bit careful. There's some really rubbish stuff. I shouldn't say, should I? But yeah,
Mm,
you can find a lot of things that just, if they just don't feel right, don't stick with them. You're not going to
mm,
know what's good or bad until you actually
yeah.
try it. And what's rubbish to me might work really well with somebody as well. So yeah, I say don't sort of judge it by what I'm saying, but judge it by trying it and running it.
Mm,
And if
absolutely.
if it grates on you after a couple of times, then yeah,
Yeah.
you need to be looking around elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big component of that of like, does it feel right for you? I think
Yeah.
because everyone's coming from it at a different place, different
Yeah.
experiences. So I think that's really powerful. As someone who practices this stuff and helps people, do you have your day-to-day kind of go-to things that you make sure that you're doing that keeps you like driven and taking action?
Yeah, I do absolutely. I'm yeah, maybe I don't do it as much as I could. It's a bit like maybe being a plumber and your pipe work at home is not where it should
Yeah.
be. I remember going to a plumber's house once and the floorboards were up and the hot tap didn't work in the bathroom. I was like, "Oh, I thought you were a plumber." I said, "Yeah, I don't want to, I'm not working on myself. I'm not working on
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
own house." But so it can be a bit like that sometimes. So I try and incorporate it where it's natural. So
Mm,
I'm one of those people when I wake in the morning, I don't drift off back to sleep generally. So I'll do some self-hypnosis. I'll lay in
mm.
bed and I can
Okay.
take myself off into a nice place. And then it might be working on, what am I working on that day? It might
Mm,
be imagining and visualizing more distant into the future. I might have a big project I'm working. I'm working on a couple of retreats and things at the moment. And it could be, okay, let's picture that done and then
mm,
let's piece together what needs to do it. So sort of rehearsing it, that mental rehearsal. Um, and I think outside of that, it's just changing that belief. It's listening to yourself, again, a bit of mindfulness probably in that, to go, when you say something or when you react to something to somebody, actually, is that the right way to do it? That
mm.
pause to go, yeah. So yeah, I do, and I do, I do self-hypnosis. Sometimes I'll sit and do something in the day. If I've made a recording to sell or to give away, I'll run through it a couple of times and use it and experience it as well.
Yeah.
If I've done a talk and it's an event and I've been able to record it, which I try to do as much as possible, and I've done a little bit of a demo in there, great, I'm going to have a listen to that. And also, I'm a member of a collaboration group of other hypnotists and hypnotherapists around the world. And sometimes one of them will say, "Do anybody want a quick session?" Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Take every
Oh, amazing.
opportunity to be hypnotized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, it's a real big insight for me, Steve, and I'm sure it's, this conversation has been for many other people. And I want people to kind of, if they haven't already, learn more about how your practice and this can help them even more so moving forwards. Where can people find you, Steve, so people can reach out?
Yeah. So the simplest way is to Google Steve Woods hypnotist. You search for Steve Woods hypnotist, and it will probably find my golf website at the moment, and that will vary over time as to which website probably comes to the top. Social media wise, I'm at Steve Hypnosis on most of the platforms. I try to use LinkedIn probably more than anything else.
Mm,
I have mixed emotions about the world of Facebook and things, but I'm there. There's a presence there. So you can DM me through Facebook and DM me through Instagram and those things. So yeah, Steve
mm.
Hypnosis will find me, or as I say, Googling Steve Woods Hypnotist. And on the websites you end up with, they generally is a link for a form, or there's a link to book a free strategy session, a conversation as well, which is that starting point.
Amazing. Listen, Steve, thank you so much for your time. Really insightful stuff and really giving some people to think over and implement as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, John, for having me along. It's been a pleasure.